Hi, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Cults and the Culting of America. As you can tell, I am not Scott's radio voice, so we're having a special session tonight. I'm super, super excited. Our guest tonight is Dr. Cynthia Brown. Is this the correct pronunciation?
Cynthia Brown.
Cynthia Brown. She specializes in women's health and fertility. Like many women, she spent years searching for answers about her cycle, her hormones, and her body. Despite her training as a doctor of pharmacy, she found herself frustrated by the one size fits all approach of conventional medicine, birth control for every symptom, and no conversations about root causes. Her journey with women's health began long before pharmacy school. At just 8 years old, she was diagnosed with pernicious puberty and endured early menstruation, weeks of bleeding, and painful periods that left her fearful about her future ability to conceive. By her 20s, she was battling ovarian cysts, diabetes, hypertension, pain, and sleep apnea, all while being told that these issues were normal or manageable with pills. But she wanted more than a temporary fix. At 26, she used what she knew as a clinical pharmacologist and layered in functional medicine to reverse her chronic conditions, heal her hormones, and prepare her body to carry life. Within a year, she balanced her hormones naturally and went on to become a mother. That experience became the foundation for Copella Health, a fertility and hormone concierge service for women who are done guessing, also settling, and ready to heal. She's joining us to discuss how the Maha movement is pushing women to handle their health and fertility in unhealthy ways due to constant misinformation, and has people coming into her clinic with these beliefs already instilled. This is so powerful. I think folks are going to relate to everything on here, and I'm so excited to welcome you to our show. Thank you.
Thank you. You flatter me. Yeah, it's interesting. I think with the Maha conversations we're having now, I want to back up by acknowledging like the Maha pipeline for a moment. That it does often begin with wellness and well-intentioned people. People who are like, oh, what can I do to better myself? Right. And then there's levels of extremism where it goes into supplementation, optimizing slash even biohacking. And then you kind of fall into this pipeline of perfectionism, I would say, and achieving some idealized figure of health. And again, I've been privy to speak at some biohacking conferences and good really understanding how people think and perceive health and how people think and perceive women's health, especially. And some things I find is that often it's well intentioned people who are frustrated with how things are being done and have ideas that are not conventionally accepted. Often they have a scar story, like I do, where they were sick or diagnosed with something crazy and scary and they were dismissed or they were mistreated and they want answers, and conventional medicine doesn't always have those answers for you or really give you the room to talk about it. I mean, your doctor has like 5 minutes with you. They can't have a meaningful conversation about lifestyle interventions, for example, because they're just too busy. So they look for answers in other places, and sometimes they find really good practitioners with who are cautious in how they're helping you. I'm very open to alternative forms of medicine. It was a module that we learned in pharmacy school because it is something people do, And my husband, he's very into biohacking and like all the health stuff. He was a trainer in a past life. I'm really into that. It really helped me with my diabetes and hypertension so that I could conceive our first child. So I'm like I'm drinking the Kool-Aid with you, but the limit for me is where we completely dismiss, reject and fight evidence-based medicine. I truly believe
Yeah.
that there has to be room for both in the
Yeah.
conversation, not all or nothing.
So, and this is so interesting for me. Like as I was thinking about our discussion today, I was thinking about like I got into studying
Mhm.
culture literally when I got pregnant and I was like,
Yeah.
"Whoa.
Yeah.
Whoa. This is the craziest thing I have ever seen." And like have a complicated backstory, born and raised all over the world, and everywhere I've seen has its own cultural ideas about what you have to do
Yes.
to get pregnant, to stay pregnant, to have healthy babies, to raise healthy kids. And I had never seen the kind of culture wars and vitriol and also just
That we have now.
the not answers for questions, you know,
Mhm.
and so for me it was, I came from a world where 100% of the babies were breastfed in this cult.
Right.
And so coming into a world in the US where I'm being told like 25% of Americans are
Yeah.
successfully breastfeeding, like I
Yeah.
fell into the la leche a little hard because I
Yeah.
really wanted support and answers to questions. And it was
I
exactly what you were
I'm
saying,
glad
you know,
you're
it was so difficult and
yes. Slippery
confusing.
slope. I think and what's funny is I think people who are in this paradigm with us, there's this false like it's like sold falsely as accepting and understanding where quote unquote Western medicine is cold and sterile and cruel. But funny enough, in my pregnancy, I for one, I searched for a doula for weeks because no one would take me because I was open to a hospital birth. I was straight up rejected, and I'm like, I thought y'all were the nice ones. What's going with that? But because I don't wanna give birth either literally in my bathtub, in a birthing center tub, or, like, outside, they would not even talk to me. I was immediately judged. Next, when I got into a birthing class, the things we were being taught were just clinically false, and I felt kinda awkward because this is not my class, right? But I'm like, she's talking about if you do this and this and this, it'll kill your baby, it'll hurt your baby, it'll trigger the cycle of interventions. And I'm like, that's not quite how that works. But I don't want to step on any toes. I'm just here but I'm like, wait, that's not scientifically false. And even there, I actually left the birthing class halfway through because I was getting, like, bullied by the instructor, the doula, because I was open to an epidural and a hospital birth. Like, each time something would come up about pain management, she's like, "Well, I know Cynthia doesn't need to hear this because she'll be drugged up anyway." And it's like, "Dang, I'm catching strays. I'm just sitting here in the Zoom call with just say the thing. Why are you bringing
Yeah.
me into it?" You know? So I found that, like, there is hostility on both ends, but there's also value on both ends. It's just simply a matter of, I think, balance and respecting people's preferences. The danger I found with Maha, I'm not sure if you're familiar with the free birthing movement. We are we are really drifting casually into this more extreme birthing experiences where we are rejecting epidurals, we are rejecting complete hospital interventions whatsoever, and more and more people are choosing to free birth, which is leading to many complications and deaths, quite frankly. This past week alone, an Australian influencer lost twins during her birth. And she's posting about, and she was like right before she went into labor, not knowing that she was gonna lose both children. And I'm like, what a waste. Like, could something have been done if you
Yeah.
just went to a hospital weeks ago? How long were they struggling in there? Was it the birth itself? And those things are heartbreaking, but also frustrating because
Yeah.
from my point of view being an immigrant, I sometimes feel like here in the West and in America specifically, we're a bit spoiled and that we have all this access to information, knowledge, and systems that many people do not. I am Nigerian, and the infant and maternity, mortality rate is astronomical. It's extremely dangerous to conceive and deliver in that country. And then to see women in the West just kind of choosing those dangers is a little
Yeah.
frustrating
And
to me, to be honest with you.
and here's where it gets culty to me, I think, is the pain part of it. And I wonder
Oh my
what you
God.
think of this about, like, the purity of the pain. And I
They,
will
because
admit,
there's honor,
I
because there's honor
fell
in pain. Yes.
Yes, and I fell into
It
this
ties
a
back
little
to the
bit
Adam and Eve
hard.
narrative, though, that as
It's
women,
like
as Eve's daughters, we deserve pain. We deserve suffering. This is our birthright. And so the idea that you either enjoy birth, so some people, like want to be numbed out with their epidural or whatever, or that you even snuff that out a little bit is like sickening to some people. And that is especially of men. And that I had a natural birth. I didn't want a natural birth. Just it happened that my birth came so fast, I could not get an epidural. So, as someone who did the thing, it's not worth it. It's shoot me up immediately.
so and so this is kind of what happened to me, right? So
Yeah.
I got pregnant and I was like, "Whoa, I have no." I think this is when I first
Were
started
you
noticing
surprised?
that
Were you
like
like, "How'd this happen?"
not not the pregnant, like I that was on purpose, but like
Okay.
I think that I think that was when I realized, like, oh, I don't have a culture, I don't have models to follow, kind of all of these
Yeah.
things
Yeah.
from coming away from a cult
Yeah.
and losing your whole life framework. And that's when I started getting
Yeah, yeah,
really
yeah,
involved in this stuff. But I saw
yeah.
a documentary that many women have seen that I'm sure you heard of, though I forget what it's called, but it's about like the agenda of the medical industry in
Mm.
birthing,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
I got like, "Whoa," and at the time, I was just
yeah.
starting to deconstruct a lot of my stuff, and we had been raised completely outside of modern medicine. I have a
Yeah,
significant amount of medical trauma. Plus, I just
yeah.
think when we talk about the mind that has been inside of an extreme belief before, with the purity, with the hardship is goodness mindset,
Mhm.
like, I was very like that in my life, like, I
Yeah,
wasn't just gonna get in shape, I was gonna
yeah.
race marathons, and just, like,
Right,
do
right.
everything the hardest way
The
possible.
extreme.
And
Right.
so I went full, I'm gonna hypnobirth, I'm gonna do all of it, and I was, like, very, very intense on it, and, turns out, like you said, it didn't go that way for me. I mean, I absolutely had the kind of birth experience where my child and I would not have survived without modern medicine,
Right,
and my child
right,
almost didn't. And when I got the epidural finally, after having
right.
25-minute
I'm jealous of you.
contractions and just
I'm
craziness, I
jealous.
was like, "Oh, there was no." I had this very clear picture of the purity of it all and the pain of it
Right,
all, and how
right.
I think that's used so much to kind of control us.
It's romanticized too. And I think to the point where we forget, like even just in the language of it, your body knows what to do, your body will take care of it, your body will handle it. And I'm like, yeah, but also death is very natural. Death is
Yeah.
natural. But no one is like, and like maybe you'll die. Like no one says that part. I feel like if we brought that into the conversation more, people would have a more again, as I put, holistic view of things. Um,
Yeah.
but I mean,
And isn't
I don't
that
know if
part of the
you
problem
yes.
of romanticizing the past, is the survivor
And
bias?
well,
And
because it's not when it comes to Maha and MAGA, they tend to, I feel like, make an it's idealized, but also just fictionalized, because many of the things that we talk about in that just simply did not happen. Whether it's the trad wife, movement in a world where women have always worked, will have to always work, our labor, whether it's commodified or whether it's directly paid to you, it's still labor. It's just a matter of how much you respect it, in my opinion. Um, it just it's this romanticized idea that if you just turn your brain off and you just get pregnant, you'll just be this happy little forest fairy, and your big husband will solve all the problems for you, and nothing bad will ever happen.
yeah, I kind of, when you describe it like that, it reinforces my belief that early pregnancy is part of indoctrination into
But
the
yeah, it's
cult.
yes. Yes, yes, yes. The earlier the
I've been
better, the
thinking
more the
about this
better.
a lot. I've been thinking about this a lot with the Mormon church, and I wrote all
Mm,
about how, like, the missionary trip that they send mostly the men on
and went on.
is, you know, they compare it to basic training, and it is identity breaking indoctrination, what we call
Well,
the
I think
brainwashing process.
it's also part
And
of, I think, the that romantic side, like, "Oh, my prince is going off on a quest,"
yes, yes,
right?
and
It's part of that
meanwhile
narrative
and
too.
meanwhile, you're back here, like,
Yes, rolling down the fort.
the young men are
Yes.
going off on this thing, and the young women are
The
staying
war, it's
home
a
and getting
spiritual
pregnant.
war.
And with the pregnancy, when I when I tell you so the way to break someone down, you know, in order to open them up for brainwashing is isolation,
Mhm,
fear,
mm,
pain, and
mhm,
small acts of kindness. And, you know, by the time I get pregnant, I'm coming out of growing up in a cult, being the intelligence officer, learning all about enhanced interrogation tactics,
mhm.
which is torture, and the sleep deprivation of being a
Basically,
new
the entire
mom.
first year of pregnancy and being a new mother.
Sleep deprivation of being a new mother, I think, is exactly identical in form to the way that we break people.
Mhm.
And we just have nothing to help that. Our society just has nothing to help that. And
Because your body is a product. The very interesting thing that happens when you get pregnant, you lose personhood, in my opinion, in my experience. You are a breeder, you are an incubator with legs and a voice box. And when you deliver that child, you are again put back on the shelf. So what is there to think about? What is there? What are you complaining
right,
about? Does your toaster complain that it's too hot? That its hormones are flaring up, that its legs are swelling? You'd be like, "That's weird." Anyway, back to the toast, right? So it's all part of dehumanizing us even more and turning us into pieces, well, I would say agents, as agents of the state in some ways. Like your job is to breed and produce more workers, produce more children, produce an heir, produce. I mean, I say that because, me, I'm African and Nigerian, I'm Igbo, and we have a very patriarchal structured society in that way. I cannot inherit anything. So if my mother had not produced my little brother, my father's legacy is kinda like, what was the point? Was he even really here if there is no male heir, right? When I was having I had I we have a boy, my mom, she was like, "Oh, thank goodness you got so lucky. You were blessed with a boy on the first time," because it took her 4 girls, 4 4 4 wastes of space to get to the heir. And so that is kind of like those things have shaped some of my view of like what is the romantic, right, view of mothering and breeding, but what is also the cultural and state sponsored reasoning for that. As we're talking now, like with Maha and fertility, all this, hand wringing about the fertility rate is dropping. And it's like, yeah, because things are horrible. Why would you wanna have children? Why would you wanna bring children into existence of suffering right now? It's horrible for
right.
most people, and no one is doing anything meaningfully to help the average person. You're creating incentives for continued breeding, like the IVF thing was cute. Let's see what happens with that.
Yeah.
Reducing drug costs for fertility treatments, even the $5,000 stipend, which I think goes into a special fund, but 5 grand, that's what, diapers and some grass creams, maybe it might cover your birth if you're lucky, so there's that, but then once again, as you were saying, you're left flapping in the wind.
Yeah.
So it's
Like,
like, yeah, you get me through the first month, and then what? Like, help me, I'm dying.
that was I think that was one of the things I was very surprised about American culture,
Yeah,
was just sort of the acknowledgement of how broken parenting and specifically motherhood is, but then just
no one
no
caring.
answers. And and to be clear too, like, especially in white America. And so for me, and my mom to this day, she will say, who, was born in this cult and was there for 40 years, will say, like, the one thing is you were never by yourself. with the kids, right? Like you never had all of the labor just dropped on you and you've just had to figure it out all on
Yeah,
your own.
yeah.
There's something about community and being able
100%.
to lean on each other and being able to literally tap out because it's
Well,
so funny we're having this conversation today because my kid was sick last night, and so I'm running on, like, 2 hours of sleep
no,
right now.
I am on high alert with the monitor in case he wakes up to crying, I might not so I was like but it's because we have commodified and commercialized community. It's called daycare. You do have
Mhm.
community, just you pay for it now. Our country isn't set up for that. Even if, in my situation, my parents are 4 hours away and they still work in their 60s. So, even if something were to happen, how would I access that resource? Even if your parents are down the street, they're probably still working because you work until you die in this country. So, or they're very very fixed, right, on lower income and don't have things to spare you. So what besides presents, which is valuable, but let's be real, we need food, money,
Help.
water,
Yeah,
diapers, and I
and we need
mean,
help,
help, physical but
you
the thing
know?
is
Help.
though, something with Maha as well, there is that theme of I suffered, why can't you? Are you too good to suffer?
Which brings us back
I've
to the purity. It brings us back to the purity and the, like, if you if you didn't do it the
it's a
hard
pain
way,
fetish.
did
Yes.
you really do it? And it is, and
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
it's this goodness in suffering.
Yes.
And I will never forget at the height of my, I think, sort of toxic perfectionism when I was in the military and sort of drowning, and I was winning a marathon while I was deployed, okay? And I remember thinking, like, they're gonna do an interview, they're gonna ask me how I did this, and I laugh at the idea that you think that doing anything for 3 hours is hard, And, like, that was just such a almost like a point of pride with me, but also a like, "What?" Like, I've been taught to
Yeah.
suffer from birth. Like, I have literally been taught to just push myself down and push through it no matter what, and that is so bad for us. Like, it's so bad for us.
I will
But it
say
is embedded
yes.
in at least in white America from what I can see.
I I definitely resonate with that myself, and I still believe that, like, hard work, being uncomfortable is important, is needed. It forces you to grow. The issue is that distinction between hard work and discipline and suffering. It's a very thin line sometimes because I do think, when things are too easy for people, they don't appreciate, they don't understand it. But then on the flip side, you can get lost in the suffering of it all. And I never want a situation where a woman is again, she is so bogged down by breeding because of because it's only suffering attached to pregnancy. Many of my clients that I meet, they are in various levels of the naturopath holistic spectrum, many of which again are Black women and who have had very contentious relationships with the healthcare system for a variety of reasons. And so it is something I try to preach often is simply respecting where they're coming from and the balance. Like, I do think we're very lucky and fortunate that we have access to the best of both worlds in America. We really, really do. The issue is simply knowing where one starts and the other. I mean, recently with the discussions about autism, it's been just disgusting and ridiculous, quite frankly, the conversations we're having. But unfortunately, it is because one of the very tempting fruits of Maha is that they offer answers that Western medicine is too humble to say, I don't know, or simply too arrogant to acknowledge. So people are, with the autism question, people are asking, why is this happening to my child? Why me? Why me? What can I do to prevent this? Make it better? And it's such a broad topic. There's various, it's a very broad range of symptoms. So different experiences are being lived. And you go to your doctor and they tell you, "I don't know. We're not sure." That isn't very satisfying. But if someone can give you a simple, and direct answer, that is what you want to believe in because your peace is tied to believing that, regardless of what the other body of evidence says. And the funny
And
thing is, like, when your entire world is on fire, if someone can tell you your child is struggling because of Tylenol, I'm gonna buy in even
right,
more.
right.
Especially, this is we're filming on the 4th. We just had midterm elections where people are actively being starved on SNAP, but if I can hold on to this little belief that if I gave my baby ibuprofen instead of Tylenol, they will not have that's all. It's like a drop of not kindness per se, but
Yeah.
relief almost, even though it's
It's
fundamentally harmful.
it's this is a recurring theme for me
Yeah.
in the book that I just wrote about cults, which is people want a simple answer.
Yes,
Cults pop up in times of social turmoil because
and they want an
people want a
adversary.
simple answer. Yes, they want
An
someone who's to
adversary, they
blame.
want lore, they wanna be the hero, they want a villain. Like, you know, think about it, like, someone is telling you, I have the answer. I infiltrated the evil Western medicine hierarchy, pulled out the golden apple, brought it down the mountain for you. Here is the secret that they've been keeping from you, and I am your hero. And you get to be a character in this story. That's exciting. That's exciting. It's sexy. But in
Yeah,
reality, it's like, no, we just don't know and bad things happen sometimes. I'm so sorry. Like that what is that?
yeah, right. So, and I had an experience with this that I talk about in my memoir where I was medically evacuated with the symptoms of a brain tumor that
Oh
they
my
thought
god.
they saw on a CAT scan. And long story short, I think I went into this process believing that when something was wrong with you,
Yeah.
the doctors would eventually
Figure
figure
it
it
out.
out.
Right.
And what I learned was no, you
Sometimes they
know?
don't know.
Wait, right. What I learned was I think I was thinking of our body as machines. And
Yes.
since, most of the machines we have are made by humans, humans know how to ultimately fix and diagnose everything.
Yeah.
But it's like you said, it's like there's an unwillingness on the side of Western medicine to kind of admit we don't know what's going on here,
Yeah. And
and
so we're gonna gaslight you and insult your intelligence because we want you to believe this instead, because we can't say I don't know. That's extremely
you'll love this. I
frustrating.
have to I have to share this
Please.
on this podcast specifically because the only reason I got attention for this medical problem is because I was a 26-year-old, never having born a child woman lactating at war.
What the heck? That's
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah. And so it was one of these situations where they were trying so hard to explain it away.
Yeah.
But ultimately, because they could not explain like why this and I literally kept repeating. I said the only reason I'm getting any help in this process is because I can literally show
Yeah.
very clearly that there's something
Something
wrong
wrong.
here. And it turned into a year and a half of tests. It turned into kind of a slow recovery that had to be much holistic. It turned into a
A
ultimately
journey, as they like to call it.
nobody knew.
Yeah.
But yes, and I really feel that I learned in in that situation kind of what
Well,
you're
that's
talking about, that it's like
advocacy.
Western medicine and the history of everything we know is absolutely
Yes.
important. But
Yes.
also, there's so much to our bodies and our health that is not known, either because we're just not there yet or because of biases and things we've ignored and
Yeah.
things we are still ignoring. And it's so frustrating to have a clearly obviously medical problem
Yeah. What
and just have them be like, "No, what are you?"
are you talking about?
We used to
Especially
joke, but
as a
it's all
woman.
in my head, right? It's all in my
Yeah.
head. the
Well,
toothbrush.
especially as a woman when there's a lot of our conditions are very understudied. I mean, I tried to do some research on Black female fertility in my fellowship, and I simply could not get funding. People were not interested in having that conversation. That was really the first time I was like, "Oh, no one gives a oh, okay. Okay. Well, that's something. Okay." And I had to kind of pivot, and I found other loves. I found other ways of studying women's health, but no one cared. So it is, and like, in the name of, transparency, like, me with my PharmD background, I've had to essentially threaten doctors for care because they wanted to go a different route and did not involve me in my own care. When I'm like, no, I know the drugs too. This is the drug I should take because of this, and that. I was assaulted in my graduate program, and that set off a series of mental health issues, and I needed depression medication because I was at a point. And this doctor was still like, well, let's do counseling and let's, start you on this. And I'm like, that drug is older. It has more side effects. I need this. Well, let's try this. And I said, well, you can either give me this prescription, or if I go home and you will have to explain to a judge why you didn't give me what I asked you for and why you insisted that I do it your way. And she gave me a prescription for what I asked her for with fewer side effects. And I've been on it since. I've never had any issues with it. I've never had, because again, I knew the drug. So I'm like, I don't have time for you to experiment on me. Give me the good stuff. So I have had to threaten providers. With my husband, I was pregnant. I said, this healthcare system is very racist and very sexist. I do not want to die at the end of this. And we had to have conversations about how he would advocate for me and protect me in the maternal health space as a white man. Like, use your white privilege to keep me alive. If, and he did. I'm glad I have a partner who's on the same page as me. But Maha, I believe, has weaponized that need for advocacy and just simply saying you're entirely responsible for your health. You're entirely accountable for whatever outcomes happen to you. And yes, we're talking about these unproven, unsupported techniques and methods, but if something bad happens to you, it's still your fault. And Western medicine doesn't have the luxury of that. Can you sue an
Yeah.
influencer if you try a product and you get sick, go into kidney failure, or have adverse events? Not really. I mean, can we go to RFK if you do get or skip a vaccine and something bad happens to you? No, because ultimately you are
Right.
accountable. So it's this really sweet spot, really, of I can say whatever I want and I'm never accountable for anything bad that happens to these people.
There's another thing that I recognize so much from cults, which is blaming individuals for systemic
Yeah.
problems, right? So,
Yes.
like, you're telling
Yes.
them
It's
that, like, our
easier. It's
system
it, it's an
works
easier
for
answer.
everyone, and it's something else that you said that I see in cults, which is so cults always hate medical care, right? Including the military, including
Of
the
course.
the cults that you think should love medical care, still hate medical care. And I've started to realize that part of it is teaching the cult members not to take the medical care. Like in the military, you have medical care available to you whenever you want and quite good full coverage medical care when you're active duty.
Right.
But you take one too many days of missing physical workout, physical fitness call to go to see the doctor, like your
Right.
career is going to start suffering, and so in this
Wow.
way they train you to go through an entire career where you're physically being broken, and they have a medical system just like they have
Right.
an
And never
internal
getting
judicial
help.
system, but you're being taught to not use it, and you're also being taught that that's your choice, you the individual, not
That's
like
insane.
this systemic thing, and
I wasn't
that's
aware
like
that that was kind of the dynamic within the military, to be honest with you. That's scary.
yeah, and we, it's like it's kind of a thing that's talked about, the only time they let the average soldier go to the doctor is during workout, which means they're now forcing you to make this choice, and then we mock the workout people, the people who miss the workout and call them sick call rangers, and,
Right.
you know, if you have a legit medical problem, you're walking around with a permission slip that basically says no one can make you do this stuff. So then in our culture, we're going to get on you for that. And it's all these very subtle forms of kind of ensuring that by the
You
time we
don't seek
leave this
help.
culture, we don't seek help. We haven't sought help. So our stuff is not documented, right? When we do go back and try to say, this caused it or whatnot.
Is that a function of the kind of more masculine nature of the business? Like men tradition don't seek help, they just kind of tough it out. Is that a larger extension of that ethos, do you think? Or is that simply like we need like as a strong warrior, the warrior spirit, that's a very I guess popular thing we're saying now,
Yeah.
where warriors again embrace suffering, embrace pain? Is it both? Is it
It's so this part of the toxic masculinity of it all is definitely a good point that I'm not sure I had thought of in quite that way. Um,
oh
I've I've definitely thought about, so why do cults always hate medical care? Because ultimately you're not supposed to be an individual. And I think the number one
mm,
rule of kind of any what is called a total institution, anything that manages like your whole life is you're not supposed to be an individual. And medical care is individual, whether that's physical or mental, like, and so I think that's why, and no
can
matter
I
what
ask
cult it
I'm sorry.
is, and no matter what they claim to be about, it always comes down to denigrating medical care.
Is there also an element of if you seek medical care, you'll gain knowledge and awareness about anything else? Like it's almost like controlling information. Like
Yes.
if you let's say again in the birthing space, you learn, "Oh, I don't have to be in pain the way that papa said," or whatever, or, "Oh, perhaps if mom or Sarah or whoever else had had care, maybe they wouldn't have died in birth," and you start questioning things. But, whereas if you never get that care, you just have to just believe whatever you're told about that situation. That yes, your infertility is God punishing you because you wore a short skirt. Yes, your husband is the reason you keep getting an itch down there isn't because your husband is cheating on you, it's because you're sinful. I'm wondering if that's a tone, a
Yeah.
thread somewhere, maybe not big, but shooting in the dark.
It definitely is, and it's part of normalizing the, well, you're supposed to always be in pain, which is
Right,
kind of a common joke among soldiers, like, what is 0% pain? Like, does anyone ever have
right,
that? No, that's
right,
crazy.
right.
Not like that should be your baseline, and that's what I think is part of it. Oh gosh, my little brain is going all over with just like all these threads you've connected about like
Well, that's why it's good to have
about like the
conversation.
pregnancy and the skinniness and the like hardship and the just all of
Oh,
it,
did
it's
you see
all
Nara
it's all
Smith's
connected to control.
TikTok photo on where she posted her 2-week postpartum body, and people were like, "Oh, let me just myself." I just
Right.
the agents of the state,
Gosh.
that's what we'll say. That's what I'll leave it at that because 'cause I'm like, "Come on, girl, if you don't."
I bought into that so hard, and this is one thing we wanted
Yeah.
to make sure to get your opinion on, my whole
Oh,
team,
sure.
was how this intersects with the skinny white woman concept. So, my
Love that
skinny white
theory
woman.
that you said. I love that theory. I don't know if it's originally you or where you learned that
No.
phrase, but
So I say, like, my skinny white woman in cults is sort of the white feminist that is upholding the patriarchy in general. I think is like, once
I
I
mean,
identified this through like looking at Ghislaine Maxwell and what's
I
her
was
name,
just about
Chloe
to
from
say,
Smallville,
well,
Allison Mack,
ho
and and
Well,
saying
our
like,
our
"What is it?"
VP
Like,
is about to get his own skinny white woman soon, apparently. So, I'm rooting for that love story.
it's looking like it, and it is.
Look, love is love, right? So that's
Oh, it's oh my gosh, watching them try to force charisma on JD Vance is just so
I mean,
interesting.
look, I love a love story. I think a spring wedding would be great. I think it'd be great PR. I'm interested in seeing how they spin this one. And maybe Usha can, get herself back together.
But
She a lot's happened to her and it shows. She looks tired, she looks stressed out. I get it.
yeah, I feel so bad for her, and I mean,
Don't.
just not for nothing. You don't? I feel like he
No.
has completely changed, but I guess I should not.
Well, yeah, but I feel like I don't know, when you are literally like I don't feel like you don't watch that happen to your husband in a vacuum. I don't believe
That's
in
true.
like, there's no such thing as, like, a good victim, sure, yes. But also, I don't believe in this idea that you can be that close to that much power and that much villain just villainy and not be dirty yourself. Even if you're tolerating it, accepting it, turning a blind eye to it, that is just speaks a lot about you as a person to me. So I don't feel bad for anything that happens to you. I hope you get heckled and booed and and whatever else, because those are just the small
Yeah,
victories of karma. But no, I don't feel bad for her at all, to be very honest with you. I think she's exactly where she wants to be and chose to be. And quite frankly, based upon her career, I don't really think she has much personal empathy for people like us. I mean, she was clerking for Kavanaugh and Gorsuch. I feel
yeah,
like, I gotta have a rough idea of what you think. So you probably don't like people like me. So I'm okay with that.
yeah.
But, that's a
I mean,
tangent.
it's definitely been interesting coming from because we've been saying for a while, like, the cult is not gonna accept Usha
Never gonna
Vance
happen. It was never gonna happen.
because
She's not
she's
white.
not that skinny white woman,
Point blank
kind of no
period.
matter how
No, it
hard
would
she tries to be.
no, and if the best thing that JD can do ahead of 2028 is ditch Usha, get with the blonde lady. She's got money, she's got power, she's riding the wave of a dead husband. She's sexy but still approachable. She's a mother and do a nice blended family, get a good photo op in a Catholic church. Wait, I'm not sure if we like Catholics anymore, but in a church. I'm not sure which Christians we hate
If
right now
she's
because it seems to be a moving
evangelical and
target.
he's Catholic, it's
Oh,
interesting.
well, but that to me is closer than I think she's Hindu
Yeah.
and
Well,
or yeah,
I'm so excited to tell my audience this stuff that you're
we're just
saying because
gossiping now at this
everyone.
point, Daniela.
I mean,
I've
but
derailed this conversation.
that's fine. I mean, some part of prediction is just gossiping, right? But like it is for sure. I mean, one of the things I've been fascinated about
It'd be
is
beautiful.
the Mormons, the evangelicals, and the Catholics all getting in bed together inside of MAGA. I don't think that's ever happened in America quite that way before. And like
No, well, they have
I
a
I
common
know,
enemy, a common
right. They have a
objective.
common enemy, but like I know the Christian nationalists, like the evangelical side, because that's
Yeah.
my unfortunate
Well, I
cultural
think it's a means
history.
to an end.
And
It's not gonna be for long.
and that's what's fascinating to me because I know that the
That he doesn't.
evangelicals don't think that the Catholics and the Mormons are
Which I did
equal
not know. I
humans,
didn't know it
equal
was so spicy.
Christians. It is no, it is
I
one of my
learned that I was like, "Ain't y'all all the same? I thought y'all I mean, it's the same guy, right?"
I'm
I'm a
writing a
bad
musical
Christian
and
though, so I don't know
I'm writing a
nothing.
musical, and one of my
Ooh,
favorite lines is "Catholics, don't you know that evangelicals hate you?" Because they seem to be ignoring this, and I'm interested to see how this goes,
yeah.
especially because what we have setting up is for the president and most of the Supreme Court to be Catholics.
Mhm.
Meanwhile, so many of the other players are evangelicals, and
Well, it
And Mormons have so much power in this country that isn't talked about as well.
well, the thing is I'm getting better at spotting Mormons in the wild because you're absolutely right. I'm often surprised at like who's Mormon and how devout they are in their Mormonism is also a factor. The different kinds of Mormons, it is fascinating. And the common thread is they're usually beautiful, weirdly beautiful, have fantastical names. I think Benson Boone. What's a Benson Boone? I was like, what the hell is that? So, I mean, I love that. That's amazing. I just know like
That's fu
Mormons are
I
just
haven't
these sexy Christians, right? And
I
basically,
haven't thought about it quite that way, but Mormons might be the only, like, white Americans that have spicy names.
I mean, I'm just saying, like, even Lucky Blue Smith, what is that? What is that? I love it though, but that's like one way I've been able to like detect Mormons. Like, if your name is interesting as a it's like a white person, I'm like, you Mormon. You gotta be. Tell me, is your grandpa Mormon? 'Cause you someone up there was a Mormon, and usually, yeah, but but
Funny.
but I know they're interesting too, especially I can't recall if they're okay with gay marriage yet. Recently, they've been showing Shoulder, which is very scandalous. So their adaptation has always been how they can adapt to the times to survive. That is the church's trick. So they're adapting again. So I'm interested in what new revelations will come out and
Yeah.
adaptations will come out if and when tides shift. I don't know, but
I think
it's
it's
interesting.
finally cracking up. I do. Both both the Mormon Church and the MAGA. And I
I
say
hope
this
so.
because so what happened to the children of God and the way that cults die, short of one,
Yeah.
big conflagration, is when they can't keep the next generation, right? Keep or
Mm,
recruit.
mm,
Hence why we tend to see such a big focus on pregnancy, etc.
yeah,
It The thing is, the isolation really, really matters to
yeah.
that because, like, raising brainwashed kids, like, is such a gamble whether it's gonna stick when they grow up or not. And so, in Children of God, we saw, like, they achieved such perfect isolation that a huge majority of the early children born in stayed into their adulthood. But by the time the younger generation was coming up, we had the internet, which they wanted to use
Well, are
for
you aware of
business,
the
and
Quiverful I feel like, I mean,
I
isn't
am
that
aware of the Quiverful people. But so
yeah,
with all of these, so
okay.
and this is it comes back to the fertility thing. It's that, I mean, the Mormons have more money than anyone.
Mhm,
MAGA has 77 million Americans, but
mhm,
I know huge amounts. I know thousands of ex-Mormons with large, large families,
mhm.
and very few where the majority of the siblings are still in the church, right?
Oh,
Usually it's, I have 10 siblings, 2 of them are still in the church, the rest of
mm,
us are out.
that's helpful.
My family, we had the same thing, big families, 12, 14. I have 25 siblings
Jesus
and sex
Christ.
cult math.
Yeah,
But, like, nobody's in it anymore because it fell apart. And this is where it all comes back to the children, and it all comes back to, like, that's why the focus of authoritarian, totalitarian leaders always comes back to, can you
reading.
control the children? Can you control the breeding, the fertility? Because children are also the easiest to exploit.
Mhm.
So if you have, like, this constant crop of children, you can keep your thing going for a really long time. And I think the Mormon church is one of the just sort of primary examples of this that we have.
Right.
Obviously, Catholics as well.
Bedtime alarm to put the baby down.
But I think the writing is on the wall because they're not keeping the children. And sort of the same thing for, the main demographic that the toxic masculinity, the folks in power right now are appealing to is just the single angry young white men. And so I
But it's
think they're not
working.
keeping the children. I'm scared that it's working. I think that
Very concerning.
I don't know. Do you think they're gonna keep the children?
I think that we're gonna get more and more polarized, gender wise. We already are very much so, but because a lot of the young men are shifting again towards those easy answers that it's not your fault, you're a loser, it's feminism or whatever the slogan is now. It's a very tempting answer. I think, and honestly, this is a hard thing for me. I'm still thinking about this myself. Where I'm not sure. Have you heard the phrase that we're in a boy crisis right now?
Uh-huh.
That's it's sometimes a little patronizing, I think, because I'm like, we've been in a girl crisis for decades and no one cared, but now that it's affecting the boys, now it's important. And there are some people who are talking about the importance of, again, uplifting both genders. I think that's good. But as someone who comes from a very stern kind of violence, everything background, I'm kind of like, but what about when it was women, no one cared? I'm still working on processing that because I have a son, obviously, and like we have to do something about the men because they're, so it's kind of
Yeah.
a catch
Yeah.
22 situation.
Like, I've been having this conversation around guns even when we say
Yeah.
the problem is guns, I but women have the same access to guns as men in America,
Mhm.
and we're not going around
Shooting
doing
people.
the school shootings and the mass shootings, and we just have so many guns in America, we're never gonna get
We have
rid
more
of
guns
them.
than
So,
people, which is ridiculous.
until we have the conversation about why Americans, and here it's definitely specifically white Americans, are raising
Well,
school
the painful thing is
shooters. Yeah.
okay, but when I say it, I'm gonna get banned on Twitter. No, I don't know I don't know this I don't know how this came from, but, having the conversation, like, we always talk about like the black home and raising, single moms and raising weak boys, raising gang members. Why are white women raising school shooters? What's going on in the white home? Where are the white fathers? How come no one ever says that?
That is
What's the root
exactly
cause of
the
that?
conversation. That is
I don't know.
exactly
It's
the
it's
conversation.
ugly. It's ugly. It's not nice to hear, but I'm just saying, like, when we hear a school shooter, we all kind of have the same picture in mind. And the person doesn't have a tan usually.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, but it all kind of intersects. It intersects with, again, you need to breed and reproduce those dead babies. You can't get too attached to them because they might die at daycare in a school shooting. But thankfully you have four spares at home, right? Is that kind of how we should be thinking about it now? I don't know anymore.
The way
Almost like
So,
Almost like
my
back in the
husband
day when you would have 12 kids because 6 would die in the farm or whatever, like, that's how they want us to think
and
about breeding,
and
is like
because
there's
they were used for labor.
labor.
And that was my life, you know? So my experience in America is telling people like, "Oh, I have, this huge family." And they're like, "Oh, my grandparents, my great-grandparents are from these huge families." And then on the
Mhm,
flip side, my
mhm,
husband and I chose to have one child. Like intentionally, we have one child. And people
mhm,
consistently will
mhm.
ask us if we're not afraid that if something happens to her. And we're like, their children are not
Well, I would
spares.
lose a
Like, we're not
child, period,
exactly. Then we
right,
will have lost a child. We're not going to like be okay because we have a
right.
spare. Like, it is,
And that it's on the inverse, right? I'm the oldest of 5 and feeling like you were just, like, an attempt at a boy, right? Like, the point was to get
yeah.
a boy, and wherever the boy hit is probably where they would have stopped, and maybe try for more boys, but you were a fluke. You were an accident. You were not that's a weird freaking feeling too, you know? And, like, there's this, belief in our culture that like the child before you almost like opens the way, opens the door for the next child, right? So my youngest sister, there's a level of favoritism there because she opened the way for a boy. She allowed for a boy to enter the world. So it's like, okay, well, for me, I guess I allowed for three random bitches to enter the world. I don't know, three useless people. Like
Really
that's my
heavy
legacy, I
eldest
guess.
daughter pressure there. Wow.
God, girl, I mean, the burden of being the eldest daughter. So it's like, "Oh, okay, well, my bad, sorry." So, like, all of us are just like, "Okay, nothing," but she's like, that's her extra little mark, right? That she allowed for the boy. I guess I was blocking blessings, my bad. But it is like, yeah, if I don't know if the feeling of like, yeah, are you a spare, a mistake? Are you nothing? If you're not a boy. I don't know. I mean, even
Yeah.
now, as in we're totally off tangent. The only time my dad has ever said that I'm proud of you is when I gave birth to my son. I have a
Wow.
doctoral degree. I did a fellowship. I bought a house. I got married. It was when in the hospital, he was like, "You did good." I was like, "Oh, thank you, daddy." That's the only thing he's ever given me. All the other is required. It's what you should do. It's, just what you should do. You should always be great. But I gave birth. So I've completed my duties as a woman, right? Now just to do it 3, 4, 5 more times, I guess. But I gave birth to a boy. I got that finally. Um And so, like these are all the things I think about and process as we're talking about the boy crisis. And what kind of boy do I want to raise? And what kind of boy do I want my cousins, my younger cousins to be? As I still kind of help in a matriarchal role with them and doing my part to raise less assholes and just decent people. And part of it is having these conversations. I have these same talks with my little brother, who's now 18, with my younger cousins. I share about giving birth naturally. That they see me pumping. They see everything. I don't hide anything from them because I'm like, you will not be a fucking asshole and be in my
Yeah.
house. Like when you're out there with women, you're going to respect us and know exactly what we go through for our children and our families and our husbands. So you cannot be an ignorant asshole because I think that's part of the issue is we hide everything. We suffer in silence. We put up this wall of being invincible, right? We're giving birth naturally. It's super easy and she's back to work the next day. No. I'm like, no, I bled for weeks, So that
Yeah.
is my project in the boy crisis is radical transparency to the point of it being uncomfortable because I'm like, yes, you need to know the reality of creating a life so you know what you're asking
Yeah.
your wife for one day. And I've seen those changes in them. They're more empathetic, they're more tolerant. So I think that's something it's the little bit I can do here, right? Because I can't go to every little chat room and talk
Yeah.
about, but I think that's a start,
Well, I
maybe.
mean, I love
Start
that,
maybe
and
hopefully it'll branch
that's
out.
probably I think it's a great start. I think it's a great place for us to wrap up. There's this quote
Yeah.
my
Mhm.
friend told me she travels the world everywhere volunteering, and she says, "Ultimately, the answer is, how do you save the world? Good people raising good children." And,
Yeah.
it's I think this work of, like, unbraiding
Yeah.
the stuff that we were taught before
Yes.
we pass it down to the next generation is so fascinating, and I'm so grateful to you
It's
for
work.
coming and being a part of this
It's
conversation.
work.
If I seem a little dazed right now, it's because 'cause you've woken
Thank
up
you.
so many things
Thank
in
you for
my head
having me.
to think about.
Well, I
Um,
am interested in whatever TikToks you
yeah,
I wanna hear about the toxic masculinity of pain tolerance culture in the military. Like, I am hoping I inspired some thoughts because I love hearing you think and your stream of consciousness. I watch you in the mornings when I work out, so, like, I'm doing a plank and I'm like, "She's spitting right now." Like
The toxic masculinity. I one time did 92 push-ups without stopping to prove to everybody that I was stronger
I can do
than my
20.
husband could be.
Was he in the military with
I
you? Is that how y'all met?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, that's so cute. I love
And
it.
I literally said to myself in my little cult kid brain, I said, "What happens if I just don't stop when it hurts? If I just go till I fall on my face?"
Oh my
And let me tell
god.
you what happens is a torn ligament in your wrist.
Man, you
So,
found out.
the toxic masculinity of the culture it is a perfectly fitting place to leave this, I think. Yeah.
Thank
How
you. Thank you
do
so much.
how do listeners find you, Dr. Cynthia Brown, and what is next for you?
I am Dr. Cynthia Brown on Instagram and Threads, and Dr. Cynthia Brown Fertility on TikTok. Next is Thanksgiving. I'm just talking about navigating the holidays with all the questions about when are you having more? When are you getting pregnant? And then going into a few specials we have coming up for the year where I'm offering new clients opportunity to do case reviews where we can deep dive into your personal history, your personal story, and I'll build out a plan for you if you're trying to conceive, whether that is in the next couple months, starting the new year off. So you have a personalized, ready to go plan for your body, your situation, and your culture. So we try to tie into any cultural preferences, whether there are certain practices, nutrition preferences, as well as your medical history, so it's fully designed for you in mind and your family.
Sounds so amazing. Thank you
I
so
try.
much for coming on here. I am excited to see your stories about navigating the holidays and
Thank
to keep the
you.
conversation going. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye.